The rain and soul screamed against the pavement. Ji Chong stepped out of his black sedan. He was a man built for war. He expected the world to move out of his way, but a small girl blocked his path. Inju stood in the freezing downpour. She was 5 years old. She clutched a mud-stained teddy bear to her chest. Her beige coat was soaked through. The guards moved to push her aside. Ji Chong stopped them. He did the unthinkable. He dropped to one knee in the mud. He brought his power down to her level. The girl did not look at him with fear. She looked at him with hope. She whispered a devastating plea. "Can you protect me?" Ji Chong felt his iron exterior crack. He realized he was no longer just a boss. He was a shield. To save this stranger, he would start a war. The black SUV cut through the soul rain like a blade. Inside, the air was silent and heavy. Ji Chong sat in the back seat. He did not look at the child. He looked out the window at the passing lights. Inju sat as far away as possible. She pressed her small body against the door. She clutched her teddy bear with white knuckles. Her beige coat dripped water onto the expensive leather. Ji Chong saw her shivering in the reflection of the glass. He did not speak. He didn't know how to speak to something so fragile. The car climbed the winding roads of the hills. They reached a high steel gate. It opened slowly. Beyond it stood a fortress of glass and concrete. This was Ji Chong's home. It was cold. It was lonely. It was safe. The tires crunched on the gravel. The engine died. A guard opened the door. Ji Chong stepped out into the dry air of the garage. He waited. Inju did not move. She looked at the shadows in the garage. She looked at the men with guns. Ji Chong reached into the car. He did not grab her. He simply held out his hand. Inju stared at his palm. It was covered in scars. It was the hand of a killer. But it was steady. Slowly, she reached out. She placed her tiny, frozen hand in his. Her skin felt like ice. Ji Chong led her inside. The mansion was silent. The floors were polished marble. The walls were bare. There were no toys here. There were no colors. It was a place for a king, not a child. "Bring dry clothes," Ji Chong ordered. His voice echoed in the hallway. A maid appeared. She looked at the girl with wide eyes. She had never seen a child here. Ji Chong led Inju to a guest room. It was large and dark. The bed was king-sized. Inju looked at the soft blankets. She looked at the pillows. She didn't climb onto the bed. She sat on the floor in the corner. She huddled against the wall. She was still holding the bear. "You are safe here," Ji Chong said. He stood in the doorway. He looked too big for the room. Inju did not look up. She stared at the floor. Her eyes began to droop. The warmth of the house was hitting her. The adrenaline was fading. Her head hit the wall. Her eyes closed. She was exhausted. She had been running for too long. Ji Chong walked over to her. He moved quietly. He looked down at the small girl. She looked like a broken doll. He reached down and lifted her. She weighed almost nothing. She was just skin and bone. Even in her sleep, her grip did not loosen. She held the teddy bear to her chest. She whimpered a little. Ji Chong placed her on the bed. He pulled the heavy duvet over her. He stood there for a long time. He watched her breathe. Her breath was shallow. He saw a bruise on her wrist. Anger flared in his chest. It was a cold, sharp anger. Someone had hunted this child. Someone had made her hide in the rain. He walked out of the room and closed the door softly. He looked at his men standing in the hall. "No one enters that room," Ji Chong said. His voice was a low growl. "If she wakes up, call me. If she cries, call me." The guards nodded. They knew that tone. The black wolf was awake. Ji Chong went to his study. He poured a drink. He looked at the security monitors. He watched the rain fall on his gates. He was a man who lived in the dark. But tonight, the dark had brought him something worth keeping. He didn't know why he cared. He just knew that the shadows would have to fight him to get her back. The sun rose over Seoul. It did not bring warmth to the mansion. Ji Chong sat at the head of a long table. He was eating breakfast in silence. A woman stood near him. She was Dr. Park. She was the best doctor in the city. She worked for the underworld. She knew how to keep secrets. She had spent 2 hours with Inju. "She is physically weak," Dr. Park said. She put her tablet down. "She has not eaten well in weeks. There are signs of old bruises. But that is not the main problem." Ji Chong looked up. He set his coffee cup down. The clink of the porcelain sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. "Speak," he said. "She has selective mutism," the doctor explained. "She can speak. Her vocal cords work fine. But she has locked her voice away. It is a defense mechanism. She has seen something terrible. Her brain thinks silence is safety." Ji Chang frowned. He thought about the girl's eyes. They were too old for her face. They were full of secrets. "How do we break it?" Ji Chang asked. He was a man of action. He wanted a solution. He wanted to fix the problem. The doctor shook her head. "You don't break it. You can't force her. If you force her, she will retreat further. She needs to feel safe. She needs to trust that her words won't cause pain." Ji Chang walked to Inju's room. She was awake. She was sitting in the middle of the large bed. She looked even smaller than before. She was wearing a large t-shirt that the maid had found. She was clutching the bear. She looked at Ji Chang as he entered. She did not move. She did not smile. She just watched him. "The doctor says you are healthy," Ji Chang said. He sat in a chair near the bed. He kept his distance. "She says you choose not to talk." Inju looked at her bear. She squeezed its arm. She looked back at Ji Chang. Her lips pressed together. She wanted to say something. He could see it in her eyes. But the fear was a wall. It was a heavy door with no key. "I don't care about your secrets," Ji Chang said. He leaned back. "I don't need your words. But in my world, silence can be dangerous. People think silence means you are hiding something valuable." Inju flinched. She looked at the door. She looked like she wanted to run again. Ji Chang realized he had said the wrong thing. He wasn't talking to a soldier. He was talking to a child. He stood up. He walked to the window. He looked out at the garden. "You don't have to talk," he said. His voice was softer now. "Stay silent as long as you want. My house is loud enough." He looked back at her. Inju was staring at him. She looked confused. Most people yelled at her. Most people demanded answers. Ji Chang just gave her space. He left the room. He felt a strange weight in his chest. He was a man of violence. He solved problems with his fists or a gun. But he couldn't fight a child's silence. He went to his office. His hackers were waiting. They had been digging into the girl's past. They had found her father's name. They had found his death record. The father was a whistleblower, the head hacker said. He stole data from the vultures. He died in a car accident 3 weeks ago. The girl disappeared the same night. Ji Chang looked at the screen. He saw the face of the dead man. He looked like a normal office worker. He looked like a man who loved his daughter. "The vultures are looking for something," Ji Chang said. He rubbed his jaw. "Something the father took. And they think the girl has it." He looked at the camera feed of Inju's room. She was still sitting on the bed. She was whispering into the ear of the teddy bear. She wasn't talking to the world. She was talking to the only friend she had left. Ji Chang realized the silence wasn't just trauma. It was a cage. And the key was hidden somewhere in her broken heart. Ji Chang stood in the darkened basement of his mansion. This was the hub. Servers hummed against the walls. Blue light glowed on the faces of his tech team. They were the best in the country. They could break into any bank. They could erase a man from existence. Today, they were looking at a toy. The teddy bear sat on a metal table. Inju was upstairs, sleeping under a heavy guard. Ji Chang had taken the toy while she napped. He felt like a thief, but he had to know. He had to know why men were willing to kill a child for a piece of fluff and buttons. "We ran an X-ray," the lead hacker said. He pointed to a screen. A ghostly image of the bear appeared. Inside the stuffing near the heart was a small, hard square. It was a microdrive. It was encased in lead-to-block scanners. It's a digital key. It opens a cloud-based ledger. We think it contains the bank accounts for the entire Vulture syndicate. Ji Chang stared at the screen. "How much?" he asked. The hacker swallowed hard. "The initial estimates? Over $100 million. It's not just money. It's the names of every politician and cop they've bribed. This bear is a nuclear bomb. If it explodes, the vultures are finished." Ji Chang looked at the worn toy. It had a torn ear. One I was missing. It was a cheap thing, but it held the weight of an empire. Inju's father hadn't just been a whistleblower. He had been a thief. He had stolen the syndicate's lifeblood. And then he had sewn it into his daughter's only comfort. He had made her a target. He had made her the most dangerous person in Seoul. Can you clone it? Ji Chang asked. The hacker shook his head. No, it's biometric. It needs a specific sequence to unlock. We think it's tied to the girl's voice or a specific phrase. Without the password, the drive will self-destruct if we try to force it. Ji Chang realized the truth. The vultures didn't just want the bear. They needed the girl to speak. That was why she was silent. She knew. Her father must have told her. Don't talk. If you talk, they win. She was 5 years old, and she was carrying $100 million secret in her silence. She was protecting her father's legacy with every breath she didn't take. He picked up the bear. It felt light. He felt a wave of disgust. He hated the vultures. He was a criminal, but he had a code. You don't involve children. You don't turn a toy into a weapon. He thought about Inju waking up. He thought about her reaching for her friend and finding nothing. He walked back upstairs. He entered her room. The moonlight was streaming through the window. Inju was awake. She was sitting up, her eyes wide with panic. She was looking at the empty spot on the bed. When she saw Ji Chang, her breath hitched. She saw the bear in his hand. He walked over and handed it to her. She snatched it. She hugged it so tight her knuckles turned white. She looked at him with accusation. She looked at him with fear. She thought he was like the others. She thought he was a vulture. I'm not going to take it, Ji Chang said. He sat on the edge of the bed. I know what is inside. I know why they want you. Inju froze. She looked into his eyes. She looked for a lie. She found only the cold truth. I don't want the money, Ji Chang whispered. I have enough money. I want to keep you safe. But to do that, I need to know one thing. He leaned in closer. Did your father tell you not to speak? Inju stared at him. A single tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't nod. She didn't shake her head. She just looked at him with a sadness that felt 1,000 years old. Ji Chang realized he didn't need the key. He had already found the girl, and he would burn the city down before he let anyone take her. The days became a routine. Ji Chang worked from home. He stayed in his study, but he kept the door open. He wanted Inju to feel like she could move freely. She was like a ghost. She moved through the halls without making a sound. She was always holding the bear. She was always watching. One afternoon, Ji Chang was sitting at his desk. He was looking at maps of the city. He heard a soft sound near the door. He didn't look up. He knew it was her. Inju crept into the room. She walked over to his closet. She pulled out a pair of his shoes. They were black leather. They were covered in a little dust from the garage. Ji Chang watched her from the corner of his eye. She sat on the floor. She took the hem of her shirt. She began to rub the leather. She was trying to polish his shoes. She worked with intense focus. Her small face was scrunched up. She was trying to be useful. She was trying to pay for her stay. Ji Chang felt a sharp pain in his chest. He pushed his chair back. The sound made her jump. She dropped the shoe. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with terror. She started to apologize with her hands. She moved as if she expected a blow. Stop, Ji Chang said. He walked over to her. He knelt down. He took the shoe from her hand. You don't have to do that. You are not a servant. Inju looked at the floor. She pointed to the shoes. Then she pointed to herself. She mimed eating. She was telling him she had to work for her food. No, Ji Chang said. He grabbed her small shoulders. He forced her to look at him. Listen to me. You are a guest. You don't owe me anything. You don't have to clean. You don't have to work. You just have to be. Inju tilted her head. She looked confused. In her world, everything had a price. Safety had a price. Silence had a price. Love had a price. Come with me, Ji Chang said. He stood up. He led her to the garage. He put her in the car. They drove to a quiet street in a different part of town. It was a high-end boutique. It was closed to the public. Ji Chang had called ahead. They walked inside. The racks were full of bright colors. There were dresses and coats. There were shoes that didn't look like they belonged in a war zone. Ji Chang pointed to a rack of coats. Pick one, he said. Inju looked at the clothes. She touched a soft pink wool. She touched a bright yellow rain jacket. But then she looked down at her damp, dirty beige coat. She hugged herself. She shook her head. She wouldn't take a new one. She held onto her old coat as if it were a shield. Ji-chang realized it was the last thing her mother or father had given her. It was dirty. It was too small. But it was hers. Keep the old one, Ji-chang said. He picked up a navy blue coat. It was thick and warm. It had a hood with soft fur. But take this one too. For when it is cold, you can keep both. He bought the coat. He bought 5 more. He bought sweaters and socks. He bought her a new backpack. When they got back to the mansion, Inju carried her new bags to her room. She put the new clothes in the closet, but she did not put them on. She stayed in her old beige coat. She sat on the bed and looked at the new things. She looked at Ji-chang, who was standing in the doorway. She got off the bed. She walked over to him. She reached out and touched his hand. It was a tiny gesture, but to Ji-chang, it felt like an earthquake. She wasn't polishing his shoes. She wasn't trying to be a servant. She was just thanking him. The ice was starting to melt. The black wolf was learning how to be a father, and the girl was learning that she didn't have to earn her right to live. The storm outside was loud. Thunder shook the windows of the mansion. Ji-chang sat in his study. He felt a prickle on the back of his neck. It was an instinct. He had lived through 20 years of hits and betrayals. He knew when the air changed. He looked at the security monitors. Everything looked normal. The rain was heavy. The trees were swaying. But then he saw it. A flicker of motion near the north wall. A shadow that didn't move like a tree. A second later, the monitors went black. The power in the house hummed and then died. The emergency red lights flickered on. The perimeter is breached, Ji-chang said into his radio. His voice was calm. It was the calm of a man who was finally home. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. He stood up and grabbed a heavy handgun from his desk. He didn't go to the front door. He went to Inju's room. He burst inside. She was awake. She was hiding under the bed. She knew the sound of the power cutting. She knew what silence meant. Ji-chang reached under and pulled her out. He didn't say a word. He tucked her under one arm and ran. He led her to a hidden door in the hallway. It looked like a mirror. He pressed the hidden panel. The door slid open. It was a panic room. It was built of reinforced steel. It had its own air supply. It had its own monitors. Stay here, Ji-chang said. He sat her down on a small bench. Do not open this door. No matter what you hear. Do not come out until I come for you. Inju looked at him. Her eyes were wide with terror. She grabbed his sleeve. She didn't want him to go. She pointed to the door. She wanted him to stay inside with her. I have to go, Ji-chang said. He touched her cheek. His hand was cold. I have to finish this. So you never have to hide again. He stepped out and closed the door. The steel hissed as it sealed shut. Ji-chang turned around. The black wolf was gone. In his place was a monster. He moved through the dark halls like a ghost. He didn't use a flashlight. He didn't need one. He knew every inch of this house. He heard the sound of glass breaking in the kitchen. He heard the heavy boots of professional killers. The vultures had sent their best. They were wearing night vision goggles. They were carrying suppressed submachine guns. They moved in a tactical formation. Ji-chang waited behind a marble pillar in the foyer. He watched them enter. He counted 6. He moved. He was a blur of violence. He fired twice. 2 men fell before they could turn. He dropped his gun and drew a blade. He was too close for them to use their long guns. He moved between them like a shadow. He was silent. He was efficient. He broke a neck. He opened a throat. The foyer became a slaughterhouse. The last man tried to run. Ji-chang caught him by the hair. He slammed his head into the stone floor. He didn't kill him instantly. He leaned down. Who sent you? He hissed. The man coughed blood. The boss. He wants the key. He wants the girl. Ji-chang snapped his neck without a second thought. He stood in the middle of the carnage. He was covered in blood. He was breathing hard. He looked at the bodies of the men who had come for a child. He felt no remorse. He only felt a cold, burning hunger. He wanted to find the man who sent them. He wanted to show the vultures what happens when you hunt a wolf's pup. He walked back to the panic room. He wiped his face with his sleeve. He didn't want to scare her. He pressed the code. The door slid open. Inju was sitting on the floor. She had her hands over her ears. She was shaking. She had heard the screams. She had heard the shots. Ji Chong knelt in front of her. He didn't touch her yet. "It's over," he said. "They are gone." Inju looked up. She saw the blood on his shirt. She saw the look in his eyes. She didn't run away. She didn't look disgusted. She crawled forward and buried her face in his chest. She began to cry. It was the first sound she had made since the rain. It was a small, broken sob. Ji Chong held her. He held her tight. The war had officially begun. And he was going to win. The night was quiet. Too quiet. Ji Chong sat in the armchair by Inju's bed. She was finally asleep. Her small chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. The teddy bear was tucked under her chin. Ji Chong stared at the wall. But he did not see the room. He saw the past. He saw a different girl. He saw a different Rain. 20 years ago, Ji Chong was not a boss. He was a soldier. He was young. He was reckless. He had a sister named Hannah. She was 7 years old. She had the same soft brown hair as Inju. She had the same steady gaze. Ji Chong had promised to protect her. He told her the world was safe because he was in it. He was wrong. The memory hit him like a physical blow. It was a cold winter night in Busan. Ji Chong had crossed the wrong people. He thought he was untouchable. He left Hannah at home for just 1 hour. That was all it took. When he returned, the door was open. The house was cold. Hannah was gone. He found her 2 days later. She was in a shallow grave by the river. She was still wearing her favorite yellow ribbon. Ji Chong did not cry then. He became a monster instead. He hunted every man involved. He burned their world down. He climbed the ranks of the Mafia with blood on his hands. He earned his gray temples in those dark years. He became the Black Wolf because he had nothing left to love. He had failed his first mission. He had failed his blood. He looked at Inju now. The moonlight touched her face. She looked so much like Hannah. The same vulnerability. The same silent plea. Ji Chong realized that fate had given him a second chance. He was a man of 1,000 sins. He could never wash the blood off his hands. But he could keep this one girl safe. He could ensure she never wore a yellow ribbon in a shallow grave. Protecting Inju was no longer about the $100 million key. He didn't care about the ledger. He didn't care about the vultures. He cared about the way she clutched his sleeve. He cared about the way she looked at him when she was scared. She was his redemption. She was the ghost of his sister given form. If he failed Inju, he would die. Not a physical death. A soul death. He would become a hollow shell. He stood up and adjusted her blanket. He touched a lock of her hair. It was soft. It was real. He felt the weight of his past pressing down on him. It was a heavy burden, but it made him strong. It made him dangerous. He walked to the window. The city of Seoul glowed below. Somewhere out there, the vultures were planning their next move. They thought they were fighting a mafia boss. They were wrong. They were fighting a man who had already lost everything once. They were fighting a man who had nothing to lose but his soul. Ji Chong tightened his grip on the windowsill. The stone cracked under his pressure. He would not sleep tonight. He would never truly sleep again until the vultures were gone. He would be the monster that protected the child. He would be the shadow that swallowed the dark. He looked back at Inju one last time. "I won't fail you," he whispered to the silence. "Not again." The vulture's headquarters was a skyscraper made of glass and greed. It sat in the heart of the city. It was a monument to corruption. Ji Chong stepped out of his car at noon. He was alone. He wore a sharp black suit. He carried a silver briefcase. He did not have a gun. He did not have a knife. He only had a threat. He walked through the lobby. The guards reached for their weapons. Ji Chong did not stop. He did not blink. He walked with the confidence of a king. He took the elevator to the top floor. The doors opened to a boardroom. 12 men sat around a table. These were the vultures. They were the men who sold lives for profit. The man at the head of the table was Chairman Kong. He was old and thin. He smiled when he saw Ji Chong. "The Black Wolf," Kong said. "You come to us without an army? You are either brave or very stupid." Ji Chong walked to the table. He set the briefcase down. He clicked the locks. He opened it. Inside was not the teddy bear. It was not the $100 million key. It was a stack of legal documents. They were adoption papers. They were restraining orders. They were signed by the highest judges in the land. I am not here to fight, Ji-chang said. His voice was cold. It was steady. I am here to offer a deal. These papers grant me full legal custody of Inju. They erase her father's debts. They make her invisible to your world. The men around the table laughed. It was a cruel, mocking sound. Chairman Kong leaned forward. You think pieces of paper stop us? We want the drive. We want the money. Give us the girl and the bear, and maybe we let you live. Ji-chang did not laugh. He did not get angry. He simply reached into his pocket and pulled out a small remote. He pressed a button. The large screen on the wall turned on. It showed a live feed of the vultures' offshore accounts. It showed their hidden warehouses. It showed their families at home, eating lunch. The drive is already active, Ji-chang said. If my heart stops beating, or if you touch that girl again, the data goes public. Every cop, every rival, every victim you've ever had will know where you sleep. You will lose the money. You will lose your lives. You will lose everything. The laughter died. The room became deathly silent. Chairman Kang's face turned gray. He looked at the screen. He saw his own secrets laid bare. He saw the end of his empire. I am offering you peace, Ji-chang continued. Sign these papers. Leave Inju alone forever. If you do, I keep your secrets. If you don't, I burn this city down with you inside it. Chairman Kong looked at his men. He saw the fear in their eyes. They were greedy, but they weren't suicidal. They knew Ji-chang didn't bluff. He was a man who kept his word. He was a man who would pull the trigger on himself just to watch his enemies die. You are protecting a brat over a fortune, Kong hissed. He reached for a pen. I am protecting my daughter, Ji-chang replied. Kong signed the papers. He threw the pen across the room. Get out. If I ever see you again, I'll forget the money and kill you myself. Ji-chang took the signed papers. He closed the briefcase. He walked out of the room. He didn't look back. He had traded his leverage for her freedom. He had traded blood for peace. But as the elevator doors closed, he knew it wasn't over. Vultures don't stop hunting. They just wait for you to bleed. And Ji-chang knew he was about to bleed. The trap was set at the Seoul shipping docks. It was midnight. The air smelled of salt and rust. Huge metal containers were stacked like mountains. Ji-chang drove his car into the center of the yard. He was supposed to meet a contact. He was supposed to get the final exit papers for Inju. He knew it was an ambush. He came anyway. He stepped out of the car. The lights of the docks flickered. Suddenly, bright searchlights hit him from all sides. He was blinded. He heard the click of dozens of rifles. Chairman Kong stepped out from behind a container. He held a gun. He looked insane. I changed my mind, Kong shouted. I don't need the money. I need you dead. Once you are gone, the girl will talk. We will find her. Ji-chang reached for his gun. He was fast, but the vultures were faster. A shot rang out. It hit Ji-chang in the shoulder. He spun around. Another shot hit him in the thigh. He fell to his knees. The pain was white-hot. He felt his life leaking out onto the cold concrete. Where is she? Kong demanded. He walked closer. He pointed his gun at Ji-chang's head. Ji-chang looked up. He was bleeding. He was broken. But he was smiling. She isn't here, he gasped. But he was wrong. A small door in the back of Ji-chang's SUV opened. Inju had hidden in the trunk. She had followed him. She saw her protector on the ground. She saw the blood. She saw the man standing over him with a weapon. The silence that had lasted for weeks finally shattered. It didn't break with a whisper. It broke with a roar. No, the scream was loud. It was piercing. It echoed off the metal containers. It was the sound of a child's soul exploding. Everyone froze. The guards turned their heads. Chairman Kong blinked in shock. He didn't expect the silent girl to have a voice like a siren. That second was all Ji-chang needed. He moved with the last of his strength. He drew a hidden backup pistol from his ankle. He fired. The bullet hit Kong square in the chest. Kong fell backward into the dark water of the harbor. Ji-chang didn't stop. He rolled behind a tire and fired again and again. He was a ghost in the fog. He was the Black Wolf. His men arrived a moment later. They had been waiting for his signal. The docks turned into a war zone. Bullets flew. Containers sparked. Ji-chang didn't look at the fight. He looked at the girl. Inju ran to him. She was crying. She was talking. Please, please get up. Don't leave me. Dad, please. Ji-chang felt his heart skip a beat. Dad. She had called him Dad. He reached out with his good arm. He pulled her close. He ignored the pain in his shoulder. He ignored the blood. He felt the warmth of her breath against his neck. I'm here, he whispered. I'm not going anywhere. The vultures were wiped out. The dock became quiet again. The only sound was the lapping of the waves. Ji-chang leaned his head against the car. He was tired. He was so tired. But he looked at Inju. She was still holding her teddy bear. But she was looking at him. Her eyes were no longer ancient. They were just the eyes of a little girl who loved her father. He had finished the war. He had killed the monsters. He had protected the only thing that mattered. He closed his eyes for a moment. He felt the rain starting to fall. But this time it didn't feel cold. It felt like a cleansing. It felt like the past was finally being washed away. Spring came to Seoul. The cherry blossoms were in bloom. They were pink and white. They looked like snow that didn't bite. The mansion was no longer a fortress. It was a home. There were flowers in the garden. There were bright paintings on the walls. There was the sound of laughter in the halls. Ji-chang sat on the porch. His arm was in a sling. He walked with a slight limp, but his face was different. The hard lines had softened. The black wolf had retired. He still had power. He still had respect. But he used it to build, not to destroy. The door opened. Inju ran out. She was wearing her new navy blue coat. She was wearing a small backpack with a cartoon cat on it. She was no longer wearing the old beige coat. It was framed in a glass box in her room. It was a reminder of where she came from. But it no longer defined her. Are you ready? Ji-chang asked. He stood up slowly. Yes, Dad. Inju shouted. Her voice was bright. It was clear. She talked all the time now. She told him about her dreams. She told him about the birds in the garden. She told him she loved him every single morning. They walked to the car. It was a normal car now. No tinted windows. No armored plating. They drove to the local elementary school. It was the first day of the term. The gates were crowded with parents and children. Ji-chang stepped out. He felt the eyes of the other parents on him. He looked different from them. He was tall. He was seasoned. He had scars, but he didn't care. He walked to the back of the car. He opened the door for Inju. He reached in and grabbed her backpack. He swung it over his own shoulder. The most powerful man in the country's underworld was carrying a pink cat backpack. He didn't feel embarrassed. He felt proud. They walked to the entrance. A teacher was waiting. She looked at the registration papers. Inju Blackwood, she asked. Inju nodded. She took Ji-chang's hand. That's me. And this is my dad. Ji-chang felt a lump in his throat. He shook the teacher's hand. Take care of her, he said. The teacher smiled. She looks like a very brave girl. Inju hugged Ji-chang's waist. She squeezed him tight. Then she let go. She walked toward the classroom. She stopped at the door and turned around. She waved. Ji-chang waved back. He watched her disappear into the crowd of children. He watched her start her life. He walked back to his car. He looked at his reflection in the window. The gray at his temples was still there. The scars were still there. But the ghost of Hannah was gone. She was at peace. He had done it. He had protected someone small. He had changed the ending of the story. He drove back to the mansion. He had work to do. He was turning his businesses into legal enterprises. He was building a legacy that Inju could be proud of. He was no longer a man of shadows. He was a man of the light. The teddy bear sat on the passenger seat. It was clean now. It had 2 new button eyes. It looked happy. Ji-chang touched its ear. He thought about the night in the rain. He thought about the little girl who had the courage to ask a monster for help. He realized that she hadn't just asked him to protect her. She had asked him to save himself. And he had. The black wolf was gone. In his place was a father. And that was the greatest power of all. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And for the first time in his life, Ji-chang knew that the future was going to be beautiful.